Pokemon Legends ZA is one of the weirdest games in the entire franchise. A Pokemon game taking place entirely in one city? Yeah, right. But this was no joke. For the first time ever, Pokemon would limit you to a single area, Lumiose City. When the first trailer was released, almost nobody believed this would even be possible, especially considering the last Legends game was basically open world. It was really hard to imagine condensing all that down so much. But alas, it was released and the response was incredibly mixed. Some felt it was a lazy way to release a new Pokemon game, others felt like it was a welcome change of pace to the usual gameplay loop. But I don't like to judge games without playing them myself, so today I'm going to take you through my entire journey in Lumiose and find out if Pokemon Legends ZA is actually good. The game begins with a cutscene of two characters inspecting the Prism Tower in Lumiose, and it seems to be acting unusual. A man in his Floette appears and says the strongest Mega Evolution user must be found. Very interesting. Well, our character is shown on the train to Lumiose, scrolling reels, and something jumps into our bag. We arrive at our destination though and walk out of the terminal. This is the new Lumiose City, clearly much larger than the X and Y games presented it. We see a girl with 3 Pokemon looking around for a tourist, and of course she chooses us. She said we could tell we were tourists from our comically large bag, and yeah, alright, I guess I don't blame her. She also says we'd look good standing side by side. Damn, I know Paris is the city of love, but I didn't think we'd get hit on this fast. Well, she needs us to film a promo video for her hotel or something, but we're quickly interrupted by a loud announcement. A woman named Jet appears on the screen and says that she's the CEO of Quasartico Inc., and she says that she's leading an urban development plan that will integrate Pokemon into the city by creating wild zones where they can live comfortably. I mean, that sounds nice, but I wonder the ethics around this. Oh, well, we got robbed watching that. My first hour in France, and this already happened, bro. Well, we gotta chase this Pancham to get our bag back, and we follow it into this back alley. This girl we met also introduces herself as Tawny. Yeah, that can't be a real name. The Pancham seems to be trying to show off this bag to randoms, but they don't seem to be a big fan of it, and these guys are so rude. Tawny seemingly battled these guys before in the ZA Royale, but now we're challenged to a battle for the bag, and we get to choose our starter. I don't love these options, especially after the peak choices in Legends Arceus, but I went ahead and chose Tepig because I'm a big Gen 5 fan. The battle system in this game is completely different than anything we've seen before. Instead of turns, you have a Z targeting system where you can choose 4 different moves to attack with in a 3D space. Coming off of recently playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, this kind of felt similar. But after a quick battle, we beat the Pancham and get our bag back. Then after talking for a while and giving Tawny a Bluetooth fist bump, night falls and the area gets turned into a battle zone. Apparently Tawny knows how to get out of here though, so we follow her. It isn't long until we're challenged by this woman though, and we let her have it. After though, she finds out we aren't even competing in whatever tournament thing they're doing, so she gets annoyed and runs off. Right as we're about to exit, the game gives us a rendered cutscene where we're challenged by a bunch of grunts, and then the Floette from the beginning of the game shows up and fires off the most powerful beam in Pokemon history to scare them away. This Floette is the 3,000-year-old one from Pokemon X and Y, and Tawny knows her. Right around the corner, we make it to Hotel Z, the place Tawny is trying to promote. Inside, we meet AZ, and wow, they really did justice to the size of him. Also, that thing that jumped into our bag earlier seemed to be a Zygarde cell. After some introductions, we're allowed to stay in the hotel for the night, but before we hit the hay, Tawny asks us to come to the rooftop. We get a great view of the Prism Tower, and she asks us to continue helping her for the sake of AZ. Of course, we'll agree and give her another airdropped fist bump with the romantic view of the tower in the back. Also, Zygarde seems to be watching us. We head to bed, and the next morning we speak with Tawny and discuss the ZA Royale. It's a big citywide tournament that she's participating in and wants us to join too. The winner will be declared the strongest trainer in Lumiose and be granted any wish they want. We actually get invited while this is happening. Guess the higher-ups saw our performance last night. Tawny installs the app on our phone and gives us her contact info. She then begs us to help her and the rest of Team MZ win the tournament for the sake of Lumiose. I'm not sure what this is all about, but I'm always down for a tournament. We change into our official Team MZ merch and make our account for Royale. We start at rank Z, and well, I can see where this is going. AZ walks in and tells us that some crazy things are going down under the shadows of Lumiose, and that if we win the ZA Royale, we can free Lumiose. Jeez. Tawny shows us how to roll, but then a girl named Lita comes downstairs and introduces herself. She says she's a dancer and she came to Lumiose to try and become a professional. Also, her brother is definitely Tierno from X and Y. It's time to head out now, but Tawny wants to battle first. She seems to use Chikorita. This was just a warm-up though, nothing too serious, so we leave and notice some giant boulders now blocking the exit for no reason. We decide to take to the rooftops and discover that our character is able to fall 10 feet without breaking anything. Okay. Around the corner we find the Pokemon Center, which is more like a corner store where we install our Pokédex app. There's a prize for people who catch a few Pokemon, so we head down the street and see one of those wild zones we heard about earlier. Here we learn how to catch Pokemon, which is pretty similar to Legends Arceus. After catching a few, Tony says she needs to go run an errand, so we go to this Pokemon research lab to claim our prize. Up the elevator we meet Mabel, the acting director of the lab, and obviously a former member of Team Flare. She tells us about the wild influx of Lumio City and the construction of wild zones to accommodate them. She wants our help to research them, and from now on she'll send us research requests while we explore Lumios. Doing these will get us some nice prizes, one of the first being Rock Smash, which will definitely be helpful to clear those random rocks we've been seeing across the streets. That's all for now though, so we leave and a guy named Naveen shows up asking for us. He's also a part of Team MZ and he gives us a hat. Yeah, I'm not wearing this. Alright, let's return to the hotel, breaking these rocks in front of it. We decide to sit with Tony and have a cup of coffee and croissants. While talking, we're invited to have our first promotion match in the ZA Royale. If we win, we're promoted to the next rank. We need a challenger's ticket first though, which we get through earning enough ticket points. These are obtained when we win enough battles in a battle zone during nighttime. So of course, we head out at night and start our first session. In the ZA Royale, your goal should be to sneak up on your opponents and erase them from existence. Yeah, this is gonna be so satisfying after we get stronger. After we beat 3 trainers, we unlock a challenger's ticket and we're able to take on a promotion match. This time, it's with a taxi driver named Zach. He wants to reach rank A and abolish all forms of transit in Lumios except for taxis. Well, this battle is not really that interesting. He has a Slowpoke, Pidgey, and Pikachu, and we have our Tepig and a bunch of temporary grunts. After beating him, he says that this is the 100th time someone has gotten promoted instead of him. Dude, just give up. We get moved up to rank Y and oh, hello. Emma shows up and yes, it's the same Emma from X and Y, now 21 years old. She says that she saw us battle after being out investigating a Pokemon. She also seems to be doing some investigating for a certain person for Tawny. Well, she runs off in a very interesting way. Well, let's go back to the hotel. We end up celebrating with the team here and Tawny offers to make dinner. What the hell is this? So she thought to make curry rice in the shape of a mountain and put a bunch of croissants around it. Poor Naveen got his native cuisine butchered. Well, we turn in for the night and the next day we meet up with Tawny and Naveen downstairs. She wants to take us to see the Prism Tower. Outside though, we meet an old construction worker named Tarragon who just finished up outside the hotel. He seems to be busy with the urban development plan, but they make the scaffolding used into obstacle courses and they leave prizes on them. He says that we can win these plushes if we gather these. Alright, Tawny then shows us these Mega Crystals which our Pokemon can break to collect Mega Shards. Eventually we'll be able to trade these in. For now though, let's traverse these rooftops. At some point, Tawny makes her way down and tells us to jump off this giant building with no explanation. Luckily, our Rotom phone saves us, and further ahead we find Tawny at the base of the Prism Tower at a food truck called the Nouveau Cafe. We have some coffee until a man named Vinny shows up. He's the secretary for the CEO of Quasartico Inc., the one we saw at the start of the game. Not sure why he's here, but he just leaves right after. Well, our next stop is the Looker Bureau. On the way, we see a group of people surrounding a man named Ivor. He says that if the people of Lumios truly want to coexist with Pokemon, they should be rid of wild zones and let the Pokemon run free. Even though it's dangerous, he says to just get stronger at battling to deal with it. I mean, he definitely has a point, but I don't know if he needs to make a battle cult around it. We end up battling one of the disciples and speaking to Ivor after. We'll definitely be seeing him around during the ZA Royale. Let's continue on though. Oh, the Nurse Joys are finally of color. I actually like this take on Nurse Joy. They kind of felt like lifeless characters in most Pokemon games, but now it's like they're real people doing part-time work. Regardless, we make it to the Looker Bureau and find Emma here. Tony says that Emma was the one who brought her to AZ while she was wandering the streets in a rough spot. I mean, that's a pretty casual way saying you were kind of homeless and about to die of exhaustion. Oh, Emma is asleep. We wake her up and she introduces herself and her Esper, and she asks us to help her with some detective work. These are really just some side quests, and we will have dozens and dozens of these throughout the game. Probably won't be putting the majority of these in the video, or else it would be like 15 hours long. Not like you have to do them all anyway. These side quests are nice though, and sometimes you can even get Pokemon as rewards. While completing these, I actually discovered the clothes shops in this game, and they really do have a great selection. Definitely happy about this after the stupidity of Scarlet and Violet not letting you change your clothes outside side of some accessories and school uniforms. It was stupid. During our side questing, I did make some adjustments to the team, but the only permanent party members so far are Tepig and Ralts. We finished up and went back to Emma's. She congratulates us, and Tawny also tells us that she came to Lumios looking for someone, and Emma is also looking into that too. Then Emma tells us about Mega Evolution, but first she wants to battle us real quick. She literally only has a Mareep though, so... Emma then decides to show off her Ampharos and Mega Evolve it. I know it's not new, but Mega Ampharos is so cool, maybe I'll get one myself actually. While we're talking, we get a notification about our next promotion match, so tonight we gotta beat some trainers in the battle zones. These don't really have much for me to talk about honestly. Most battles are very spammy and lack any real strategy. By the time we collect our challenger's ticket, we could have evolved our Tepig, but I forgot. So we start a rank up battle with Yvonne. She uses fairy types, but our Tepig is strong enough to handle all 3 of her Pokemon, so we move up to rank X. We go back to the hotel and rest up until the next day. When we wake up, we see Lita and Naveen in the lobby, and she wants to get to know our purpose of joining Team MZ. So we just say to help Tawny, and then she tries to get Naveen to tell us why he joined, but he's not in the mood to talk about his life. She says we should battle him to get him to talk, but he's not much of a battler, so we took him down very easily. Afterwards, we're told Naveen's backstory and how his grandma wanted him to study and focus on school, but he wanted to be a fashion designer. She actually threw away all of his equipment, so he ran away and Tawny saved him. Damn, that is so messed up. Regardless, now is the point in the game where we are truly free. Honestly, the gameplay loop is basically solidified except for one thing we'll stumble upon later. Realistically, a lot of this game is doing side quests and participating in these battle zones at night. There is a day-night cycle, by the way, which does get annoying, really annoying actually, but anyway, as I was grinding some side quests, I finally realized that I needed to evolve my Pokemon and teach them some new moves. With our new Pignite, we were able to easily defeat the trainers in the battle zone and win our promotion match against Javi, moving up to rank W. Back in the hotel, it seems that we will be eating this croissant curry every single night going forward. Ugh. The next morning we speak with Lita, but she leaves and forgets her things, so we chase after her. We find her practicing dancing with her Staryu, and she tells us a little bit about herself. It seems she was originally living in Lumios with a friend until they got signed to a talent agency and moved. After that, she couldn't afford to make rent, but Tawny came into the picture and took her in. But she says now would be a good time to battle her to warm up and get nice and loose. She mainly has water types, but using the Quilladin we got while grinding side quests earlier, we can beat her easily. It won't be a permanent team member or anything, but it seems like with these Legends games, they want you to use a lot of Pokemon over your playthrough. We also do get access to a bunch of starters from the other generations, so if you see them pop into our team every now and then, yeah, don't be surprised. Once the battle with Lita finishes though, we're notified of our next promotion match. Before taking on the battle zone, I noticed the game actually lets you leave Lumiose City. Well, not really, this is just a funny cutscene. Anyway, we get the challenger's ticket and fight Rintaro in the rank up match, and he uses the Gen 5 Elemental Monkeys, aka a horrible team, so we defeat him and level up to rank V. We then get a call from Emma, who is trying to tell us about the Pokemon in front of us, Zygarde in its 10% form. We're told to keep it in our sight no matter what, so we follow it all the way to this building where we find an Absol in a lot of pain glowing. AZ arrives and says that we need a Mega Ring, so he sends Lucario up with it to join our team temporarily. The Absol undergoes a Rogue Mega Evolution, and we have to fight it in this boss fight with our own Mega Lucario. This fight is very intense, since the Pokemon not only attacks our Pokemon, but also us, literally. If you get hit too much, you even have to reset the fight. It's kind of similar to Legends Arceus, although just like that game, you can keep the progress on the boss's HP if you want. I think anytime I lose, I'll probably do that. I'm not really in the mood to treat a Pokemon game like Dark Souls. Beating the Absol allows us to get its Mega Stone, and we regroup with AZ and Emma. It seems like Mega Evolution is happening at random to wild Pokemon here, which is extremely dangerous to the civilians and Pokemon as well. The Absol we beat comes up and wants to join our team, so we catch it and head back to the hotel. The next day, Tawny gets a call from Vinny and says he wants to talk to us about Rogue Mega Evolution. First, Tawny wants to help try out Mega Evolution in a battle though, and of course, Absol is our only party member who can even Mega Evolve right now, so we have to add it to the team. Also, our Ralts evolved into a Kirlia here. Tawny's team is definitely better than before with a Bayleaf and Croconaw. She even has a Mega Manectric too, which is not that great compared to our Mega Absol, which is super strong. Alright, let's go meet up with this Vinny guy. We head to the Quasartico building and 2 Dedenne guards challenge us until we're greeted by Vinny. He takes us to the battle court and thanks us for handling the Absol incident. He also says we're going to be battling him for our promotion match. So we take the battle zone on and get a challenger's ticket to battle him. His team is just okay, a Houndoom, a Sharpedo, a Baneri, and his last Pokemon is Megadromp. Wampa. This thing's design is awesome. Luckily our team was able to handle it, but this was definitely our hardest battle yet. After the fight, we get promoted to rank F. Well, I'm never gonna complain about some special treatment. Tony also beats Vinny in a promotion match afterwards and promotes her to F. I gotta say, at this point in the playthrough, not to break the fourth wall or anything, but we're in like recording number 4 of 19 that I have. Yeah, the thing is, ZA is clearly a giant game, and while I think that it is largely because of how repetitive it is, it still does have compelling side quests and storylines, which I'm loving right now. And hopefully you're loving this video just as much, and if you are, I would love if you could subscribe to the channel. It's free and the best way to support me. Also, we're so close to 10k subs, and wouldn't it be nice to be one of the first 10,000 subscribers on the channel? Okay, let's get back to the game. Back at the headquarters, Vinny says this Rogue Mega Evolution issue has been a growing pain over the last 2 years. AZ had approached them and told them that Lumiose was literally in pain. Basically, Mega Power was accumulating all over Lumiose, and then 6 months ago, the first Rogue Mega Evolution happened, and AZ was barely able to battle at this point due to his age. So Tony stepped in to help. President Jet then walks in and brings Vinny with her to work, but at least we know more about what's going on in Lumiose. Before we leave though, the front desk tells us that we can exchange Mega Crystals for Mega Stones. Nice. Outside the building, we see Naveen eating, and he tells us that if we keep winning in the ZA Royale, we'll have to face the streamer Kanari, which he seems quite opposed to as a big fan of hers. Vinny then calls up Tawny and tells her he's found some places of concentrated Mega Evolution power. Back in the hotel, we meet up with the rest of the team, and Naveen shows our Team MZ War Room to us, although he seems a bit more interested in watching Kanari's live stream. We have our first official meeting on dealing with these Rogue Mega Evolutions, and we decide to have Tawny, Lita, and Naveen split off into 3 groups at each spot. Then we'll help them at our own discretion. Sounds good to me. After the meeting, AZ gives us the Mega Stone for Embor, which we will definitely be using very soon. I gotta say though, there are a lot of Rogue Mega Evolution battles, about 26 of them including the DLC. They're virtually all the same type of combat, and I don't really know if it's even interesting to watch. Maybe I'll make a point of certain ones I find interesting or difficult, but I'm mostly just gonna discuss the story elements of these sections, if any. Some of the designs are really funny though, like Mega Victory Bell. I also want to acknowledge that most of the fun I've had in ZA so far is probably gonna be off camera completely. This game is perfect for hopping in and beating a side quest or two and catching Pokemon in the wild zones. I think I probably took my time in this game more than any other Pokemon game I've played so far, which is all of them. But that's really just fun for me to experience and not necessarily for you to watch. Just hours and hours of me doing a bunch of random things. Well, anyway, we calmed down all 3 of the Rogue Mega Evolutions around the city, and when we return to the hotel, Zygarde is here to battle us. Our Absol handled it well, and after the fight, it gives us some sort of pebble. Okay. Then a man named L, who is obviously Lysander from X and Y, shows up and begins talking to us about our current mission. I'm not sure how Lysander survived that weapon he fired on himself back then, but I guess we'll find out in due time. In the hotel, we regroup with the team and learn our next rank up match is against the streamer Kanari. She seems to keep her life relatively private though, so finding her might be a challenge. Luckily, we have Naveen, who is a big fan of hers. Oh, of course, he doesn't want to help us until we battle him. Thankfully, he sucks, so Naveen says he'll give us some information. There's a quiz Kanari hosts that fans can participate in to win a favor from her. All we gotta do is win and then ask her for a promotion match. First, we gotta get that Challenger's ticket though. This was a pretty big session in the battle zone, and we managed to evolve Kirlia into Gardevoir and Pignite into Embor. After collecting the Challenger's ticket, we find the spot where the quiz is taking place, and we see a hologram of Kanari hosting it. Despite having Naveen in our ear, he doesn't help us at all at first and just says things like, "This one's easy." He also tries to act like the people here are somehow worse than him. Dude, you are a loser. Well, we finished the quiz, but there's one more thing we need to do. We gotta bring her some sort of special Super Lumio Skelette. Naveen actually does help with this, thankfully, so we bring it back to her. Everyone else except for this superfan and I get it wrong, leaving one final round left. We gotta battle this dude to get to her. He is very weak to say the least, and we ask Kanari for the promotion match. She ends up agreeing and tells us to meet her at Racine Construction. Once we head over, we meet Tarragon Taragon at the front desk, and he says he was actually watching the quiz and he'll tell us more if we battle him. His team is quite good actually, and he has a Mega Excadrill. Fortunately, our Mega Emboar is more than capable of handling it. Taragon then tells us that Kanari is actually his granddaughter, but even more crazy is that the hologram we saw at the quiz was him as a VTuber. I guess Kanari is much more interested in gaming than interacting with her fans. She is in the building though and finishing up a live stream. We go to say hi and get her to battle us. This is our first big fight with Mega Emboar, and I'll tell you what, there's nothing more fun than using Heat Crash on these guys. Literally just sitting on them. Her team basically didn't matter, although she did use all electric types. Her last Pokemon is Mega Electros, which was my only worry, since it's the only Pokemon in existence that has no weaknesses. With the combined effort of my team though, we were able to beat it and rank up to E. Kanari then seems to get angry, cursing and blaming her teammates just like a true gamer. But she says sorry, and even gives us a signed plush for Naveen since she could tell we're not really fans. I do gotta ask though, what is the purpose of this mask? I mean, she takes it off. It's not gonna hide her identity really. Is this like a stylistic choice? Is she perhaps trying to avoid the dust that may be inside of this warehouse that she is playing games in? I wonder what they were thinking. Back at the hotel, we have dinner with the team and give the plush to Naveen, and that gets him in quite the good mood. Also, side note, I love how Floette always hangs out with us. Very cute. The next morning, Vinny gives Tony a call, so we host a team meeting. Here we learn of 3 rogue Mega Evolutions we need to take care of, and yeah, this is basically the entire gameplay loop from now on. Rogue Mega Evolution battles, battle zone, rank up match, repeat. This time, we have to face Beedrill, Hawlucha, and Banette. Hawlucha in particular is super cool though, and one of my favorite new Mega designs. We tackled all of these fights, and after one of them we see El show up again alongside Zygarde, and he tells us to keep getting stronger to support it. He also says Emma is hunting him down, but we ain't no snitch. Back at the hotel, we discuss Rogue Mega Evolution some more until we're given our promotion match notification against Ivor. Oh, and don't mind my trainer card on the left. Well, we have our next objective, but first we gotta take on a battle zone. Oh, and you may notice my entire team is basically starters. Once again, don't mind it, I will be expanding my team a bit. If you notice a shiny Ampharos here, that's not a real shiny, it's guaranteed as a part of a side quest. I will be using Ampharos as a permanent party member though, just not technically this one, so yeah, don't get too confused with that. You'll understand later. Also, I kinda lied, one of these starters will be a party member, which is the Froakie I originally got from a side quest as well. It's pretty quickly gonna become a Greninja though. For now, let's go ahead and look for Ivor. We do find him eventually after fighting one of his students he has at his dojo, but he doesn't even have a phone to confirm the match. Usually he has his little sister Gwen do it, but she seems to have gone missing and he wants to look for her. If we head to the Looker Bureau, Ivor has decided to enlist the help of Emma to look for her. He says she likes to hang around the town hall for some reason, so we go there and ask for some information. We do find a lead and ask for more info at the Nouveau Cafe. Here we find that she was spotted hanging with Kanari, so we go to find her again. She seems to be difficult and challenges us to a rematch in exchange for some information. Seems like everyone in this damn city needs to get beaten in a battle before they talk. She says she has improved since last time, and honestly, she did. We really got beat up here and barely won. Well, Kanari tells us that Ivor's sister Gwen is actually close friends with her, and they often play games together. Regardless, the last she's heard of her was that she needed to beat a Pokemon that her partner Chandelure is weak to, and she also went to some fountain to do some visualization training. The whole idea is that there is a Clawitzer-shaped fountain somewhere, so that's probably where she went. We go there and somehow come to the conclusion that we should freeze the fountain. Surprisingly, we do freeze it and the water of the sewers starts to drain. Now we head into those sewers to search for her. After exploring for a while, we find a locked gate that we need a key for. We tried to use a clef key, but it didn't have the right key, so Ivor just punched through. Could have just done that from the start. But still, after searching and searching, Gwen was nowhere to be found. Eventually, Ivor just tries to punch a wall down and it ends up being fake, like a Mario 64 painting. Beyond this illusion, we find a Chandelure that finally leads us to Gwen. Emma comes to the conclusion that she came here of her own volition, and Gwen says if we battle her, she'll tell us why she's here. Bro, everyone wants to run Fades in Lumio City. Her team is Banette, Gourgeist, and Mega Chandelure, another really cool Pokemon. I probably would have used it, honestly, if I hadn't had Emboar as my fire type already. She is also really tough. We were barely able to beat her. She tells us after that she hid down here because she's tired of dealing with Ivor battling so much and her dealing with all the complaints about him. I mean, they definitely could have just had a conversation about that, but of course, every single character in this game has to be insufferable. Alright, it's time for our promotion match. Ivor has a Heracross, Medicham, Machamp, and Mega Phalanx. However, our two longest tenured Pokemon, Emboar and Gardevoir, both destroy this team, and we even get to see the debut of Mega Gardevoir in this fight. Despite all the hype, Ivor was pretty easy to beat, and we rank up to D. He even gives a heartfelt apology though to Gwen, and extends an olive branch to start being more reasonable and working with her to fix things, but she quickly shoots him down and insults him. Not gonna lie, it was funny at first, but the majority of the characters in this game being unrealistically rude to their loved ones is starting to piss me off now. Ivor genuinely had no idea he was causing issues with his training, and the second he was told about it, he apologized with no excuses. Let's just go back to the hotel. After dinner and heading to bed, the next morning brings a very interesting change. Lita comes in looking for Tawny, but she's not here. She then says that she borrowed money from the Mafia to pay for a Hotel Z promo, and now we're in debt to this Rust Syndicate group. Ugh. We get a call from the representative and they tell us to come to their office. When we do arrive with Lita, we beat some grunts in the front entrance until we're welcomed by a big dude named Felipe. He seems to be quite upset that we battled these grunts and then we have to battle him. With a Steelix, Scizor, and Mega Skarmory, Mega Emboar had no issues dealing with it. Okay, now it's time to head inside and have a calm, rational discussion. We meet the boss Corbeau, who seems to love threatening our livelihoods. We learn this whole thing happened because she was lending a hand to a member of their organization, and Felipe saw that and offered to provide her some repayment for that. Naturally, he offered her a loan of 100,000 Pokédollars and she accepted. Somehow, now the interest is up to 1 million Pokédollars though. Corbeau decides to leave the 100,000 to Tawny and we have to deal with the interest. But since we probably couldn't afford that much, he wants us to do some jobs for him to reduce the cost. I refuse the offer, but Lita butts in and agrees. I personally would have just battled the boss and defeated him easily, but I guess not. He says that these jobs are for the benefit of the city. We'll see about that. Lita is clearly not pleased with Tawny, and for the first time I can't really blame her being upset. We have thousands of Pokédollars. If she needed the money, she could have just asked us. We regroup back at the hotel to decide our next steps. In our strategy meeting, we see Tawny pop up again, so Lita really let her have it. Clearly Tawny had no idea the extent of what she did, and also didn't read the fine print of her deal. Well, at least she's sorry. Anyway, we have our next batch of Rogue Mega Evolutions to handle: Mawile, Barbaracle, and Ampharos. Nothing crazy happened in these fights, but I did discover the online battling mode at this point, and don't mind my trainer card once again. But regardless, I didn't love this online mode. It's a little too chaotic for me. Definitely not competitive in my opinion. You may have noticed I also caught a Pupitar. Well, I will be using it on my team for the rest of the game, and if you know what it evolves into, you can guess why. Additionally, I got a Mawile, which I will naturally use with its amazing Mega Evolution. After handling some more Rogue Mega Evolution battles and speaking with Lysander once again, we eventually get called in to do some work for Corbeau. First, we have to help these people deal with some Gengar, but afterwards we meet with Corbeau and it's clear that the Rust Syndicate is not as evil as they present. Not at all. We then have to go into the sewers for them and clean up a bunch of Mega Crystals. Afterwards, Corbeau tells us that he knows Lysander because he helped raise him when he was a kid. Finally, Corbeau has us go manage an angry mob which is attacking President Jet and Tawny. After spending all the time with the boss, Corbeau seems like a really nice guy who does everything for the sake of community service and the quality of life for the people of Lumiose. Right as we finish up all our jobs, we go back to Hotel Z and get a call to the Rust Syndicate. Here we have another chat with Corbeau and see that the next promotion match in the ZA Royale is conveniently against him. Fortunately, I had been grinding some battle zones so we can immediately take him on. His team is not bad at all. He has an Arbok, Gyarados, Roserade, and finally Mega Scolipede. Without items I would have been doomed, but with a little perseverance we were able to beat him and rank up to C. He even gives us a new type of Wi-Fi fist bump, this time with our fists on the side. He seems to be pleased with our skills and says that he'll see us later at Hotel Z. Back there we have dinner with the team and it does seem like we're gonna have to cover Tawny's debt. I mean dude, I have so much money at this point, they could have just asked me, man. Regardless, Corbeau finally arrives at the hotel and everyone is very surprised when he asks to stay the night. The next morning, he pays and leaves a massive tip. Actually, the tip was the entire amount Tawny owed and Felipe just came in asking for. I mean, that's just the nicest guy ever, right? Well, AZ decided that it's time for Lita and Naveen to finally get their own Mega equipment. We even have a little sparring session with them, but I'm not really sure about that design for Mega Scrafty. Perhaps that only looks weird to Americans though? I don't know. After training, we head to the Nouveau Cafe and relax. Suddenly, a woman named Laban walks up to us and requests that we attend the event that the SBC is hosting. This is a high society dedicated for trainers sharing their love for battle battling. Naturally, we can't go like this dressed in these garbs, so we decide to get dripped out from the finest designers in Lumios. I gotta say, this outfit is fire. I'm never taking it off. Tawny decides to keep her jacket though for the event, since it's from her late mother. We head to Hotel Richisme and we're greeted by Laban, who takes us into the venue. Many of the trainers we faced so far are here, and the event truly begins when the leader of the SBC arrives. Oh my god, how do I say this name? Okay, I just looked up how to say it, and they said it's Jasson. If you're French, let me know if this is true. I will continue to butcher her name in different ways. I am sorry. She makes a huge statement of the importance of this event and the fact that even the former champion of Galar, Leon, has battled in these rooms. But right as we're set to begin, Tawny gets a call from Vinny and we decided to bail out on the tournament to go handle these rogue Mega Evolution battles. In the next strategy meeting, we learn of Mega Frostlass, Altaria, and Venusaur in need of taming. Also, Jasson has some words of advice for these strong battles ahead of us. Oh wait, what? It seems like she's joined us here to escort us back to the tournament. Guess she doesn't take no for an answer. Tawny doesn't seem open to going back to the tournament right now either, so Jacinthe just leaves. Yes, I said Jacinthe. Do you want me to say Janson for the rest of the video? Actually, I might do that. After taking on the first of the Megas, Frostlass, which has a fantastic design, may I add, we get approached by the Hollercaster version of Jasson, still harassing us to hurry up with these Mega Evolution battles and come back to the tournament. At the next spot, Lita forces us to lie and say that she's helping in these battles, even though all they do is stand there and do nothing. I mean, she still manages to not have evolved her Staryu so it can Mega Evolve. Naturally, Jasson still continues to haunt us after this and the next battle, so maybe we should continue joining her tournament again. This thing means so much to her, she has her servants come to the hotel and she sets up a Jasson zone, preventing us from leaving. We're forced to battle 2 of these SBC members and finally Laban herself, and I think she's a lot more aggressive than she seemed. On paper, Laban is strong, but her whole team is dragon types, which all got mauled by my Mega Gardevoir. She did have her last Pokemon, Mega Dragalge, and it surprised me with how strong it was. We did win, and Laban explained the situation, and that we're planning to participate in the tournament anyway. She also tells us that she used to be an actual fighter, like with hands, but something happened and now she's Jasson's indentured servant. Wow. Also, our next ZA Royale rank up match is against Jasson herself, so it's like we're destined for the tournament anyway. Back at the SBC, we see the seeding for the tournament, and our first battle is against Kanari, again. Also, Jasson has a 3-round bye. Kanari's team is about the same as the last time, and Emboar was able to take out most of them. Once again, Mega Electros defeated most of my team, but we beat it through sheer numbers. The next match we have is against Ivor, and if it's anything like the last time we fought him, it should be an easy win. It was an easy win. The semifinals will be against Corbeau, pretty fitting since he was probably our toughest fight out of all the guys in the tournament. Honestly, the fight went mostly the same, and it was really close, but this time when he had Scolipede Mega Evolve, I was ready with Gardevoir to use Psybeam and beat it decisively. Now we're only left with Jasson to be in this tournament, and then Zygarde runs into the room and is accompanied by Lysander. He says that Zygarde wants to battle us to continue forming a bond. Surprisingly, Jasson is okay with watching this battle before hers. Zygarde really isn't that tough even in its 50% form this time, and when we beat it, it runs off. That aside, we face Jasson, and oh my god, why is her music so good? Well, she is a Fairy-type trainer, rocking a Carbink, Gardevoir, Mawile, Aurorus, and Mega Clefable, whose design is very unique, but I really like it. This battle was tough. I mean, once again, without being able to revive or use items, I would have been doomed. Out of all the battles we've had so far, this was not only the hardest, but probably the most fun thanks to this amazing soundtrack. We rank up to B, and Jasson takes her loss well, considering how everyone was able to have a good time in the tournament. She even gives us her own version of a fist bump. I wonder if we'll make physical contact with anyone in the city ever. Back in the hotel, we finally witness history. Naveen eats the croissant curry. More importantly though, we see AZ discussing someone or something named Ange while looking at the Prism Tower, saying it was meant to protect the city and how it has something to do with Floette. When we end up meeting AZ in the lobby, he tells us that the only one who can control the Prism Tower, which is spewing out this bad energy, is Mega Floette. For now, we just gotta continue climbing the Zia Royale, but we get summoned by Vinny first. On the way, I noticed an Alpha Ampharos, and I decided that this would be the final team member, as I mentioned earlier. When we meet Vinny, he's with President Jet, and he finally explains explains more about the urban redevelopment plan. After the incident 5 years ago, people were leaving Lumio City and the value of properties plummeted. The mayor decided to enlist the help of Quasar Tico to protect the people from rogue Mega Evolution and the influx of wild Pokemon through holotech barriers. Ultimately though, the issue all along had been the Prism Tower emitting Mega Energy, which we're now entrusted to stop eventually. But now we have our last batch of rogue Megas, Dragonite, Tyranitar, and Starmie. First we take on the Starmie and have a warm-up battle with Felipe from the Rust Syndicate. Lita also decides to finally evolve her Staryu. About time. Well, the design for Mega Starmie is certainly terrifying, but gladly we had our Alpha Mega Ampharos to counter it. Then we took on Mega Dragonite, who I low-key wanted to use, but I decided in favor of Mega Tyranitar, which we'll be getting very, very soon. I mean, so soon as in we're getting the Mega Stone for it the next battle. With this batch of rogues tamed, we head back to the hotel and get notified of our next rank-up match with a person named Grisham, who doesn't have a face revealed. Unsure of where to look, we go to Emma, who might be able to investigate. Surprisingly, she has the information, but it may put us in danger. But of course she has to have us battle before she tells us. She uses Ampharos, Lucario, Mawile, Lopunny, and Mega Malamar. Unlike most of our recent battles, she was really easy to beat. Kinda sad, really. Emma tells us a bit about Team Flare and what happened a couple years back. She had some ties with them. After all, she even still wears the super expansion suit they made for her back in the day. The point is that Grisham used to be a part of Team Flare when he was younger. She doesn't know much besides that though, so she points us to Mabel, who might know more, which makes sense since she used to be a high-ranking official in Team Flare. Even though she tries to act like she doesn't know, she eventually spills the beans and tells us her story. When Team Flare was arrested, she took a plea deal and became the acting director of the lab, probably to cover while Professor Sycamore was researching in another region or something. Regardless, she tells us that Grisham, or Gris as she calls him, was a younger member of Team Flare, and if we want to know more, go to the Nouveau Cafe. On the way there, I took on a battle zone, and I finally evolved Pupitar into Tyranitar, fully completing our team. At the truck, we find Grisham, who reveals he's the leader of Team Flare Nouveau. We're given a location, and this is the front of what used to be Lysander Cafe. Grizel really seems to not like us though, so she wants to battle us first. Her team was way better than I expected. Talonflame, Camerupt, Aerodactyl, Metagross, and Mega Pyroar. Beating her seems to get people in good spirits though, and we share a quick cup of coffee before heading into the old base of Team Flare. Grisham explains that they're against AZ because he was the one who created the original weapon that Lysander decided to use. I mean, that logic kind of doesn't make that much sense, but I guess AZ isn't necessarily innocent either. For some reason, Grisham really wants us to see the full truth of things that lies at the bottom of Lysander Lab, so we're forced to go all the way through this labyrinth. But dude, I already saw the truth when I played X and Y, so I don't know, this kind of feels useless. After making it through this insanely tedious dungeon, we learn what Lysander's thought process was while trying to use the ultimate weapon. Basically, Thanos. Lysander actually walks in with Zygarde and tells us that AZ made another device 1,000 years after that original ultimate weapon, which now dwells within Prism Tower. To me, it sounds like one device, the ultimate weapon, was meant to take life, while the other was meant to grant it, like the Prism Tower has been doing with Mega Energy. Lysander originally wanted to use both, but he didn't have the Floette, which was required to utilize its power, so he just decided to kill everyone. Ultimately, he ended up blowing himself up with a huge part of Geosenge Town, but Zygarde managed to save him and all the other living things in the area. This event ended up waking up the tower in Lumios though, and ever since then, the situation has grown worse with Mega Energy. Lysander explains that soon, the tower will reach a state of Mega Evolution itself, which would bring untold destruction. The only way we could stop it is AZ's Floette. We run back out of the lab to tell Grisham what we heard about Lysander, and he says he wants to be the one to stop the tower's rampage. Not sure about that, buddy. Back at the hotel, we decide to speak with AZ, and he finally tells us his terrible sins. This is mostly a better and revised version of the story in X and Y. Basically, he lost his Floette in a war, and he decided to build a machine to revive her. But he used the lives of many other Pokemon and humans to power this machine, trading their lives for hers. But beyond this, he upgraded his weapon, the one in Geosenge, into a machine dedicated to a pure destruction of anything it hit. Using this, he likely killed millions of people and ended the war, but Floette realized what he had done and left him for 3,000 years. After many centuries, he eventually met a man who asked for his help to protect Kalos. He thought maybe he could make a device that could share the eternal life Floette now had. This is Ange, the secret of the Prism Tower. He never ended up using it though, since Floette only just returned to him 5 years ago, but now the tower has activated and the only way to stop it is with the help of Floette. There we go. Naveen just has to go ahead and ruin the mood and be a dick. Swear I can't stand this kid. Obviously AZ was evil in what he did, but isn't it obvious he's atoned at this point? You really have to rub it in that hard and complain about it? We still need to complete the ZA Royale, so we take this time to battle Grisham. He uses a Pangoro, Malamar, Pyroar, Tyranitar, Salamence, and Mega Charizard X, who looks insanely awesome in 3D. This team was extremely powerful, but we're able to handle Charizard specifically with the help of Tyranitar, his hard counter. And with this victory, we're promoted to rank A. Finally, Lysander shows up with Zygarde, and we're informed that Zygarde doesn't have enough cells to use his full strength, but I guess we can't rely on that now. Back in Hotel Z, we have a croissant curry and learn Tawny also ranked up. Okay, I'm kinda suspicious of her legitimacy in ranking up now, but suddenly we hear Floette cry out in pain. She seems to be alright, but it's obvious she can feel the tower's power growing. Then, when we head to bed, we hear an explosion in the middle of the night. On the roof, we see the tower glowing bright pink, and AZ senses that the tower will finally go rogue. We quickly head to the tower and decide to have a battle with Tawny to determine who will be the one to save Lumiose. Wait, really? Is this the best time for this? Well, I'm not complaining because the battle music for this is fire. Well, she has a Meowstic, a Goodra, Meganium, Avalugg, Manectric, and Mega Feraligatr. I mean, her team isn't that bad, but I really doubt she got to rank A like this. Surely guys like Corbeau were better. She was one of the easier battles we've had recently. Well, now that things have been settled, we decided to head into the tower. Oh, okay, Tawny actually still wants to do it and we just battle for no reason. Sure. She does make a good point though, saying we're the only one who can actually use Zygarde's help, which is true. AZ gives us one last call and pep talk before the battle, and then we get a cutscene. Floette presents her Mega Stone and Tawny activates it. With Floette Mega Evolved, she flies the two of them to the top of the control room of the tower. Tawny FaceTimes us so we can see what's happening, and Tawny activates the machine's ability to merge with Floette, hopefully stopping the tower. The light begins to fade, but then it comes back, even stronger. The tower bursts open and transforms into this abomination, Ange Floette. We try to explore the situation, and Tawny calls us saying that she's okay. More importantly, the tower seems to have taken control of Floette herself and is trying to use her moves. In the surrounding areas, we notice Pokemon start to Mega Evolve, and we defeat them, but more importantly, we need to figure out how to handle the situation. Thankfully, help arrives from all of our friends across the city. Jasant shows some overhead footage she took, and Ange Floette has spread itself across all of Lumiose's central area. We end up coming with a plan to go across the city and fix this mess. There are tons of Mega Evolved Pokemon though, and first we fight alongside Ivor and Gwyn. Afterwards, we get quite possibly the strangest fist bump I think we've seen yet. We can't stay for long though, so we let Gwyn hold the rest of the Pokemon off while we go up ahead with Ivor. Using his Mega Phalanx, he creates a bridge for us to cross this river. Gwyn actually manages to catch up with us already, but we split off from these two and meet up with Kanari and Terragon. We defeat the Mega Pokemon with Kanari while Terragon constructs a way for us to get through. Seems like he went a little overboard though. We go ahead and meet up with Laban, and Jasant is speaking with the mayor at the moment, so we're gonna handle things with her. After beating the Pokemon here, Laban starts to vent about all of the issues with her job, if you can even call it that, until Jasant finally makes it here. They decide to create a Jasant zone to keep the Mega Pokemon trapped while we move up ahead to help Corbeau. We beat the wild Pokemon and find ourselves blocked off by a building. The Rust Syndicate grunts decide the only way for us to get past it is by creating a wildly unrealistic human ladder. Also, Corbeau tries to act all dramatic by falling down here, but rest assured he is a-okay. Up ahead we run into Team Flare guys, so we battle with them and find Zygarde. We decide to follow it to this balcony with a perfect view of Ange Floette. Lysander arrives and says that he has gathered 99 of Zygarde's cells, with the final one having latched onto us earlier, meaning finally Zygarde can reach its perfect form to fight against Ange Floette. While it does that, we fight on the ground these flowers which are attached to it and seemingly are very connected to its life energy. These are surprisingly tough to beat, and we had to keep our Pokemon very well healed. Eventually, we get Ange Floette's HP down to half, and then Zygarde unleashes a huge attack that gets its health even lower. We continue fighting, and then Zygarde lets go one final huge attack that puts an end to the tower's rampage. We group up with the others, and Tawny tells us she's still doing okay. But of course, that isn't the end. Ange still seems to be moving and preparing to fire off a Ruin of Light attack. Then something in our bag starts to shake, and that pebble Zygarde gave to us transforms into a Mega Stone. With no other option left, we give the stone to Zygarde and have it Mega Evolve. Ange fires off a Ruin of Light blast and it approaches Lumiose, destined to destroy it entirely. But Zygarde readies its cannon and fires off the move Nihil Light, reducing the attack to dust, saving the city. Tawny makes her way down with Floette, and unbelievably, we fist bump, making contact. AZ watches from afar, giving his thanks while admiring the firework-like dust from the attack. And with that, the credits roll. Back in game, we cut to Team MZ at the grave of AZ. It seems like he knew he was coming up to the end of his seemingly eternal life, and was finally satisfied after seeing us fix the last of his mistakes. Man, I didn't think a Pokemon game could make me ugly cry. Alright, well there's still some stuff for us to handle in Lumiose in the post-game and DLC. First, we read the last letter that AZ wrote for us, and he says that we could do whatever we want with the hotel. For now, we go talk to Vinny about the results of the ZA Royale, considering Tawny and I are the first A-rank trainers. Here we find that the area under the Prism Tower is now a wild zone. Then Jet and Vinny ask what our wish is for winning the ZA Royale. Tawny actually declined having them help look for that person she was looking for a while ago. Oh, by the way, they never do answer who she was looking for. It's not her mom, since she confirmed that she died. And they didn't add any more info in the DLC. Just wanted to say this in case you thought there was an answer. God forbid Pokemon makes one coherent storyline. We ultimately decide to wish for the ZA Royale to continue, and Vinny grants it immediately, creating the Infinite ZA Royale, where we can compete in battles for prizes. This is incredibly boring, and I won't be showing it off in the video because guess what? You have to grind Challengers tickets for every major battle of the ZA Royale. If you can't picture how long that would take, the answer is far too long. There is a legitimate post-game though, and it starts when we make it back to the hotel. Lysander pays us a visit and informs us that Zygarde has been missing and that we need to find the one that gives and the one that takes. I mean, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but we can only go to Mabel for more answers. She does know what he's referring to somehow, the legendary Pokemon Xerneas and Yveltal. She's noticed some strange alpha Pokemon in a few wild zones, and we're told to defeat them for now. Once we do, she says that Xerneas may be found in Wild Zone 11, and that ends up being true. Surprisingly, catching this thing was way easier than I expected. Now for Yveltal, we have to go speak to Team Flare. They have us meet them at Quasartico with Vinny, and he says that Yveltal was spotted flying around. More importantly to him though, he wants to show off his new Rogue Mega Evolution Simulator to us with 3 rematches of Pokemon we fought before. What a giant waste of time. Alright, well, they spot Yveltal once again and we catch it easily. Now we go back to the hotel to meet up with Lysander, and he offers to battle us. He uses a Pyroar, Florges, Noivern, Sableye, Garbodor, and Mega Gyarados. But you know what? Beating him was like way harder than I thought. I'm pretty sure my first ever recorded loss in this game was to this fight, and I lost multiple times, even using items. Eventually I did figure it out, and after the fight Zygarde comes to invite us to a final battle. In the fight we fight Zygarde in phases with each of its forms. This fight was also super difficult, and I don't think I've ever used more items in a boss fight in any JRPG, let alone Pokemon. But when we do defeat it, it allows us to catch it, and we even give it a fist bump. We have one final chat with Lysander, but that's it for the post game. Now it's time for the DLC. A girl named Ansha appears, and she asks to make some donuts for her Pokemon Hoopa. Kinda random, but okay. We go on a little quest to grab some butter and come back to Ansha having set up a little donut shop in the hotel. Using some berries, we make a donut for her, and Ansha prepares to leave. She wants to use this donut to give Hoopa a surge of power, and she wants to test it out. Considering she's just a little kid, we decide to follow her so she stays safe. Well, it turns out she was going to investigate a portal, and Hoopa needed a donut to get power to explore that. She goes in and we follow after her. This place is like Lumiose City, except very barren and ominous. Inside, we're attacked by a bunch of Mankeys, which is weird for a lot of reasons, but mostly because Mankey isn't even found in Lumiose. We do eventually find Ansha, and she seems relatively unfazed, saying that the legendary Pokemon she's looking for isn't here. When we leave the dimension, a huge portal thing opens over the Prism Tower. Later on, back in the hotel, she explains this Pokemon she was looking for was Rayquaza. Really? Anyway, we're called up by Corbeau, and when we meet at the Rust Syndicate, he asks us to investigate what's going on with that giant portal thing. He ultimately decides to call that alternate dimension we went into Hyperspace Lumiose, and so begins the never-ending gameplay loop of this DLC. The donuts we make for Hoopa are going to be how we power our Pokemon in hyperspace. Depending on the donut, we can stay longer in hyperspace and also increase the level of our Pokemon up to 200 there. While we're in hyperspace, we're tasked with exploring and completing objectives within a time limit. Along the way, we need to make sure to collect hyperspace berries that give us much better donuts. By doing these tasks, we get survey points for Corbeau and get information about Hyperspace Lumiose. After the first survey is done, we figure out that Hyperspace Lumiose may affect the real Lumiose, and also that Pokemon in this space are at risk of rogue Mega Evolution. Knowing how strong hyperspace Pokemon normally are, this definitely sounds crazy. But Corbeau has enlisted the help of Korrina, born into a lineage of Mega Evolution users. She asked for a quick battle, and it definitely was quick. She sucks. But we do see the first new Mega Evolution in this DLC, Mega Lucario Z. It may look cool, but it's still no match for our Emboar. Now that we've gotten acquainted with Korrina, we team up to take on the first of these hyperspace rogue Mega Evolution battles, this time being Mega Absol Z. We take it down, collecting this interesting hyperspace butter, and head into the hotel. Here Gwyn comes in and gets acquainted with our donut shop, but then Laban comes in and tells us that Jason has a friend whose daughter was supposed to be under her care. Turns out that daughter is Ansha. Laban is sort of unable to listen to reason though, so she has a double battle with us, and then she finally calms down. Ansha is clearly too busy to leave right now, so Laban decides to lie to Jason for now. Yeah, I seriously doubt this will end well for her. Going back to Corbeau, we learn these hyperspace portals have been causing Pokemon to show up that shouldn't be here, showing more signs that hyperspace could cause havoc for real Lumiose. But now it's time for our next surveying. Things are mostly the same this time around, but there are new side quest kind of portals that give you specific objectives to complete within them. It's usually just one big thing, but sometimes it's dealing with a new rogue Mega Evolution, other times you're interacting with hyperspace versions of people we know in the real world. All I know for sure is that this Crabominal quest is hands down the worst designed boss in all of Pokemon, with the exception of Ultra Necrozma. The last objective for this survey is to take on another rogue Mega Evolution in Staraptor. Beating it once again gives us new butter that upgrades our donuts. But with this complete, we decide to take a day off with Korrina and Ansha and check out the museum. The current exhibit is all about Hisui, and it's very cool to look around through this area and see all the details they had from Legends Arceus. I probably spent way longer than intended in this museum, but I really did love how much effort was put into this. But once we see everything, no day off is complete without a cup of coffee at a cafe. Well, that was nice, but we probably should keep handling the hyperspace situation. Speaking of which, a Gulpin has seemingly ended up at the hotel from there. Corbeau calls us in and tells us he has a theory that hyperspace Lumiose is actually a collection of subconscious thoughts, which would make sense why we see people and Pokemon in it that shouldn't be there. And maybe there was an unconscious thought from me about how useless a lot of these older donuts are going to become soon, and maybe that's why Gulpin came here to eat them. I don't know. But we do have another survey to conduct, and the new things this time are the hyperspace battle zones. They're literally just battle zones, but with hyperspace rewards. Nothing else of interest really happened during this though, so we went on to take the rogue Mega Evolution on, this time Tatsugiri. The moment I saw this thing, I knew it had to join my team. For those of you who have seen my Scarlet and Violet playthrough, I'm sure you're glad to see the fish return. We managed to tame it and then return to the hotel. The next day we notice Naveen is absent and we find him searching for a Canary plush in his room. Gulpin helps him find it quickly though, and we get a call to Corbeau's office. He says there's still a lot to survey. Okay, this is starting to get a little old now. This survey was pretty much like the rest, but we did have more of the hyperspace versions of our friends appear, and the dialogue was pretty funny. When we get enough survey points, we're told to go to Hotel Richisme for a hyperspace distortion. But when we arrive, we find Jason and Grissel arguing about coffee, and then randomly they decide to take their anger out on us in a double battle with Lita. Thankfully, this fight brings together the two, and everyone is happy again. Well, aside from Laban, probably. Yeah, keeping that secret about Ansha was bound to fail for her. In the distortion, we fight Mega Meowstic and get a new butter, going back to the hotel afterward. At dinner, we learn that Ansha's mother is actually Diantha, the former champion of Kalos, who is out of the region shooting a movie. She's the one who taught Ansha how to make donuts in the first place. That night, while we're sleeping, we ended up having some strange creepy nightmare, and Lita seems to have also had the same one. In the morning, Emma pays the hotel a visit to try our donuts, and she also shares some lore about AZ and how he got this hotel in the first place. But with that, it's time to talk to Corbeau. But we find Canary and Ivor having a bit of an argument with him about Gwyn helping in the hyperspace, so they decide to have a double battle with us. They calm down after and we get our next mission. Honestly, this survey stuff has gotten pretty boring and now we're just doing the same thing over and over again. The rogue Mega Evolution battle for this section is Mega Heatran, which made me very uncomfortable. I mean, ugh. We defeated and get the hyperspace butter, hopefully the last of these. Back at dinner, Ansha and Tawny team up to create some sort of curry donut concoction that Naveen somehow loves. Then that night we're woken up by a loud scream. Oh, it's just Lita having a very vivid dream about dancing. As for us, we end up having a crazy nightmare along with Ansha and Lita. This time Corbeau calls us and he asks for the entire team to come in. Going into his room though transports us into hyperspace Lumiose alongside everyone else he invited over. We find him and come to the conclusion that these two worlds of Lumiose are starting to merge, though we quickly get transported back quickly after this. Corbeau does tell us what he's learned though, and that's that hyperspace was created by a single Pokemon who absorbed a lot of Mega Power during the Rampage of Anj. We figure the best course of action is to use a Mega Donut to enter that hyperspace distortion over the Prism Tower. So we go straight there. Oh no, we actually collect 50,000 survey points first, sure. So after this insanely tedious grind, we have Corbeau finally tell us how to make that Mega Donut using his secret spice. We create the Bad Dreams Cruller and gather all of the strongest Mega Evolution users in the city to do some Super Saiyan God ritual, charging the donut with Mega Power and having Hoopa eat it. Then we enter the portal. This is the same place as our dream, and we determine the Pokemon who is causing all this is Darkrai. Up ahead, we randomly find AZ. Of course, this is only the hyperspace version of him, but it still felt pretty sentimental to finally get our last words with him. With that, it's time to face Darkrai. The initial battle is surprisingly easy, but then he transforms into Mega Darkrai, which was unfortunately spoiled like last week because of the new TCG set. It's alright though. The battle was tough. We even lost due to our player taking too much damage, but trying again allowed us to defeat Mega Darkrai using the advantage of Mega Emboar. Naturally, we catch it as well and head back. Turns out Darkrai probably didn't even mean to cause all of this trouble, but it was in a lot of pain and suffering after being exposed to that Mega Energy. Well, if you can believe it, there is a post-game for the DLC. Remember how Ancho wanted to catch that Rayquaza? Well, we still gotta do that. Corbeau has some information for us, and he tells us that he was actually raised by someone who is most likely Giovanni. We also learn that Lita is from Hoenn, and she tells us the lore of the Pokemon Groudon and Kyogre, the keys to getting Rayquaza. 70,000 survey points. The only new content here is rematches with Mega Pokemon, aka no new content. I fail to see the purpose in this grind. Okay, we do the survey, get the info that we need to make the special donuts to see the legendaries, and then have Ansha make them. Honestly, they look really good. It'd be really cool to try these in real life. Using the donuts, we meet Primal Groudon and Kyogre, catch them, and return to Corbeau. He comes to the conclusion with the help of Mabel that we can make Rayquaza appear by wishing really hard. Okay, I guess that somehow makes sense. Back at the hotel, we have Ansha tell us more about why she even wants to catch Rayquaza, and she says that she heard a story about its origin in Hoenn, which is literally just the same story you hear in the post-game Voraz. With this information, we should be able to have her wish to see Rayquaza now though. 100,000 points. Yeah, I'm done. After playing through Legends ZA, I have a lot to say. A lot of good, but a lot of bad as well. First, we gotta talk about the elephant in the room, the battle system. You may have noticed that unlike a lot of my other videos where I go over my thought process in battle, I barely mention battles much besides the results. I think the reason for this stems from the fact that these battles are very button mashy. I'm not really saying that they're skillless though, far from it. Many battles towards the end and the DLC of the game were much more challenging than even the hardest ones from the traditional style of games. I had to use tons of items and strategize use of Mega Evolution with the iframes that you get while you activate the transformation. I even had to learn to call back my Pokemon a lot more mid-battle to avoid some huge attacks. Would I necessarily say I prefer this battle style? Not really. I think it works for this game specifically, but I definitely wouldn't want it to exist in future traditional style games. I do value some of the strategy in Pokemon, and this is just too spammy, and certain Pokemon aren't even fun to use. Greninja, for example, just gets blown away by most attacks, and it doesn't even deal that much damage. The benefit of its speed is supposed to allow it to attack more and use more moves in rapid succession, but I barely got to use attacks in the first place because of how weak it was. It's not like how normal Pokemon is where the faster Pokemon goes first. The speed of the move coming out has entirely to do with the move itself, so quick attack won't always move first. Instead, it's just an attack with very little startup. To me, ZA is completely designed around tanky, hard-hitting Pokemon, and it fails to make certain speedy Pokemon feel good to use. I think the best part of this whole battle system was actually the ZA Royale Battle Zone fights. It was pretty fun sneaking around trying to one-shot random trainers. The Rogue Mega Evolution boss fights were also quite interesting since they encouraged you to use different Pokemon who could Mega Evolve that had an advantage over them. This ended up making so that every member of my team had the ability to Mega Evolve and handle these battles, which could only be damaged much by these Megas. But this is where I want to bring up something that I was gonna save for later in the analysis, but it makes most sense here. The repetitiveness of this game left me with the worst taste in my mouth. There's almost always a gameplay loop of some sort in a game like this, and for most of ZA, I was able to tolerate it. There were a lot of things to do, and the story and side quests in between made it very bearable. But right as I got to the DLC, it started to get to me. Did I seriously just pay $30 with tax to pay the same $50 15 minutes over and over and over again? Really? I mean, this is the laziest, cash grabbiest thing I've ever seen Pokemon do, and that's saying a lot because I just played through every Pokemon game. There's a real difference between the DLCs I played for Galar and Paldea though. Those games' DLCs truly felt like new games with intriguing characters and storylines. But in ZA, you're introduced to some kid who has you make donuts for 15 hours until you think you've completed everything, and then she has you make donuts for another 10 hours for a singular quest. Very few things have made me stop recording out of rage in these games. I almost always take my time with these and enjoy them despite also wanting to make a video for them. But this Rayquaza quest just felt not fun, but also disrespectful. I couldn't even imagine doing this after all that time I just spent grinding. And it's not new. It's not new content at all. You may remember in Legends Arceus, there was a similar quest, but I could kind of forgive that since the quest itself had a lot of other bonuses involved with it that many people would want to do, like completing the Pokédex. Please, tell me, who in their right mind wants to load into these hyperspace dimensions over and over again for 10 hours straight with likely no benefit besides the eventual Rayquaza? Not me, that's who. This is the lamest game design I've seen Game Freak use, and frankly, it's sad this is the most recent impression I have of the mainline games. It's such a shame, man, because the DLC had glimpses of extreme care put into it. The concept itself is fantastic, and parts of it like the Museum Day shows they cared, but when the entirety of the DLC is based on the idea of get thing to progress story, and then the next quest is to get more of thing to progress story, it does feel like I'm just a robot repeating the same action again and again, which isn't entirely off. I wanted to talk about this now truthfully, so I didn't end the video at this point because ZA is not as bad as this one thing makes it seem. So let's change the tone a bit and discuss my favorite part of ZA, the characters. Okay, I know I said a while ago that the characters being rude was getting annoying, and that is true, but I also think that the designs and dialogue are still top notch. I also love the representation of different archetypes of people. The entire character of Corbeau is phenomenally handled. He was raised by freaking Giovanni and then somehow ended up in Kalos with Lysander, so you would expect to be just as evil. But no, he's a truly kind person who has a rough exterior thanks to his horrible influences in his upbringing. The Team Flare guys are all really interesting with how they atone for their past mistakes and reintegrated into society. Then, even though most people in Lumiose are quite rude, they managed to make Lita, who would be the equivalent of Japanese in this world since she's from Hoenn, the nicest one, at least up front. She still has depth and isn't afraid to be honest, especially when Tawny screws up with the Rust Syndicate. She does seem like the most realistic character out of all of them, honestly. I also have to give special love to Jason, who I'm sure was meant to not be a liked character, but I think she's so unpredictable and funny in her interactions that I was always locked in when she was on screen. The characters aren't perfect though, and I really do think some like Quinn and Naveen were pretty much just annoying the whole time. Like anytime I saw them, I knew they were just gonna be rude to someone for no good reason. I really do wish they implemented more banter instead of just being cruel to friends. It's not like they couldn't do that since most of Lita's conversations had great writing, but they chose to make everyone hate each other. Guess it's better than Scarlet and Violet's constant glazing of the player with no other substance besides that. Now some other stuff I noticed while playing. I remember hearing a lot about the graphics being bad in this. To that I have to agree, at least for the environments. The buildings are flat and you can't go inside almost all of them. One of the major things I was expecting in ZA was to explore more buildings inside, because you know, everything takes place in one city. But instead, it's just typical modern Pokemon cutting corners and making it seem like they're not. Just sad to see, really. I have no defense for this. Plenty of games with lower budget and scale are able to create some detail for the interiors of their buildings, not to mention at least make the outsides look acceptable and not flat. The performance of this game itself was great though. I don't think I experienced any sort of stuttering or FPS issues the entire time I played. Mind you, I am on the Switch 2 version. The character models though, they cooked. I mean, yeah, everyone looks amazing in this. Do I gotta say anything besides that? Now, the music. I'm not exactly sure if it would be accurate to say this soundtrack is entirely amazing, but I could certainly say it's good. Like, on average, I would say the music is filled with a lot of nostalgic tones from the X and Y days, and certain tracks do stand out. Obviously, the Jasant battle theme and some of the other specific fight themes were so good, but even just the daytime tracks are almost annoyingly infectious. You'd think hearing the same song in Lumiose City for hours and hours would get bothersome, but it's so complex in its arrangement that I found myself humming along the entire playthrough. I know Pokemon did outsource some music for this game, particularly for that Lumiose City main theme, and I certainly think they should continue, especially with how memorable the music from these freelance producers are. Hell, Toby Fox even made the best music in Scarlet and Violet, and it wasn't close. And for the story itself, I think it was one of the best ones that Pokemon has delivered. The sheer roster of characters seems like it would be hard to do justice, but each has their own time to shine, albeit some more than others, and it really made me me anticipate all the ways that they would interact with each other. The story does a great job at balancing times of seriousness versus just random goofiness, and I loved it. I know it may shock some of you, but it really did improve so much from Legends Arceus. I may need to make a unique video in and of itself to explain why, but just briefly, the efficiency of battling, the purpose of side quests, and even the story itself was clearly made to be improvements from Arceus, and I'll never complain about Game Freak learning from the past. There are some elements I do miss a little, but again, that's for another day. Standing alone, ZA does give me a unique experience I simply can't get anywhere else in Pokemon. Do I wish it was a little more fleshed out? Yeah. Do I wish you didn't have to do the same collecting points quest over and over again into the DLC? Yeah. But did I have fun? Definitely. So as for the base game of Legends ZA, do I think it's actually good? Yeah. Now for the DLC, I'm gonna go ahead and say no. For the majority of people, I would not recommend buying this DLC. I just don't see the benefit unless you really love Pokemon and you just buy everything. I think it's also quite good for shiny hunters if you're into that. I did manage to find a few by accident, so that's cool. I don't know though, most of this DLC felt overly grindy and not fun, which is what I'm looking for in a game. I even went against my original plan of giving the DLC its own video because of my impression of it. So with all that being said, I've done it. I've played through every single mainline Pokemon game. You know, I'm not sure what I'll do after this. Maybe I could try my hand at competitive Pokemon, or even try replaying the games with my new skill and knowledge. Regardless, I think this franchise has given me so much, and I think ZA is still a great entry in it despite my mixed feelings. As for the upcoming release of Gen 10 in the franchise, I'm patiently waiting for Wind and Waves, and my expectations are higher than ever. If you got this far in this video, I am so grateful for you, and I would really appreciate it if you checked out my channel memberships. You'll get early access to all my videos and a lot of exclusive content. Thanks for watching.